If we can, please, let's just go to our short refuge prayer and the four immeasurables to do our opening prayers tonight. So we're on page 5 of our Buddhism 101 book. So we'll recite 3 times in English. All mothers sentient, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Next page. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Okay, thank you. So what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks was about the 5 poisons and the 5 antidotes and the 5 wisdoms that come out of using the antidotes against the poisons and so on. So this was all had to do with karma, cause and result. So does anybody have any questions? Rebecca or anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about so far? Okay, been good. Then what we are going to do, we're going to talk about now how it is that karma manifests. So we say that it manifests in the 6 human realms, that we as human beings are in the midst of these 6 human realms. Could we be exclusively in one realm or another? Or are we in a state of flux in these 6 different realms? So this is what we're going to examine. So, Michael, you want to put up one of those slides, the one with the full picture with the wheel of existence. Or should I do it? Let me see. There it is. I got it right here. Okay, so if you can see this picture here, so you got to imagine that many years ago, 2,600 years ago and onward, people were very illiterate. They didn't know how to read or write. So the teachers, the lamas, were traveling around from one village to another. And they would come and spend, a week or 2 weeks or a month, whatever it was in these villages. And they would have, these series of teachings and series of empowerments and practices and so on like that. And then they would pack up and they would move to the next village. So everything that they had to do had to be for people who didn't read. They couldn't read books. So they had to be able to demonstrate to them. You had to be able to illustrate to them ideas that were very abstract, and to do it in an illustrative way. So they had these like rolled up paintings that are called tankas. And they would bring these tankas, and they could be all different sizes, but they could be something that was on the order of 3 or 4 feet wide and maybe 6 feet high and so on. And they would bring these and unfold these, and it would be like a talking book for the people. And the Lama could reference to these pictures and talk about what they were representing and so on. So among these things was what we call the wheel of existence, which is the manifestation of our karma in these 6 realms of being a human being. So this first picture here is one of those pictures. So what we're seeing here is this wheel called the wheel of existence, and there are 6 segments here. So I sent you copies of this, and if you want to print this, you can print this, or you can bring it up on your own computer. But if you can see what I'm pointing at here are these 6 realms. And there are 3 lower realms. We talk about these 3 basic ones here, bottom ones here. And then there's 3 higher realms that we talk about at the top over here. Then in the center is the hub. And then around the center is these 2 segments, one that is white and one that is black, with these characters that are in each one. And we're going to do a close-up of each one of these. So this wheel is in the clutches of this Mara. This Mara is a demon, and this demon is ourself, is our confusions and so on. So we say that all these demons, all these Maras, Mara is a Sanskrit word that means demon, are these demons that rise up within ourselves that are our confused thoughts and so on. So they're being characterized as being human, as having some kind of animalistic or some kind of anthropomorphic, characteristics, so that people could, kind of visualize what this meant. But really they are, it's just it's a way of describing our inner voice, so to speak, something within ourselves as these demons, this Mara. So this wheel of existence is fabricated by our confusions, by those 5 poisons, by the 84,000 emotions, is what are the dynamics that build, that create, that manifest our life in this wheel of existence, in these 6 realms of human nature. So just to give you an outline, a sense of where we are, the 6 sections will start at the top. So the 6 sections would be the Deva realm, or the God realm. Now this God realm, don't confuse with what we might consider to be the spiritual creator, something like that. That many traditions believe in a single God that is the creator of all things. So this isn't that. This is more focusing on the pantheon of gods that were prevalent, 2,600 years ago in many different civilizations and so on, in the Greek civilization, and the Roman civilization, and the Egyptian civilization, in places all around that Indo, Asian, Euro areas and so on. So all these different gods that controlled things like the weather, the rain, the wind, fertility, all these different gods that did all different things and so on. And people, had these great adorations toward these gods and so on. And so this is the God realm. Then the next was called the anti-God, or the Azura realm, in Sanskrit. And this realm are the beings who are very, very human. These are all human beings that are very manipulative and are able to capture the imagination and the confidence of the people, and they would direct these people to give them great power, to give them great wealth, to be able to manipulate things and promising them that that they're doing everything for them, that they're doing things. But really, these jealous gods, these are the jealous gods, these anti-gods, are very conflict oriented. And they're always trying to get power, more power and more wealth and so on from each other, from the other jealous gods. And what they're really trying to do is to become the gods themselves, because they recognize that the gods are so, spectacular, and that would be the best thing to be in a human concept. So they wanted to be the gods. So they were always in conflict with the gods. They're in conflict with themselves, and they're manipulating all the people who are supporting them. So then is the human realm. So within the human realm, these are beings who are born and who go through all the vicissitudes of life and changes of life and so on, and are able to make changes within their lives and so on, and they can learn and they can evolve and improve themselves and so on. And it's these humans that are supporting these gods and supporting these jealous gods, these anti-gods. So this is the human realm. These are the three higher realms. Then the three lower realms, at the very lowest, would be the hell realms. And these hell realms are the beings who are suffering greatly for the terrible things that they've done, and that have been like killing people, killing animals, destroying things, creating terrible damage, terrible sufferings to other beings, sexual deviance, and angry, hatred, killing, and so on like that. So, and these hells are terrible, and these beings are constantly in a state of flux where they are dying of these terrible deaths, and then they immediately become revived, only to die in the next moment again from that same death over and over and over again. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what that means in just a couple minutes, but I'm just trying to give you the overview of what this 6 realms of human existence is all about. So now we're talking the hell realm at the bottom of this. And then next up from that would be what we call the preta realm, or the hungry ghost realm. And the hungry ghosts are beings who are there because of miserliness, who never are satisfied. And they're characterized by being very big and round and fat. And they have very little arms and hands, and they have very little legs and feet. And they have very long necks, and they have very small mouths. And what this is showing us is that they can't be mobile. They can't get and manipulate and be able to get food and so on. They've got these little mouths and long necks, and they can never satisfy their thirst and their hunger. So, but this is also, for power, for education, for knowledge, for being able to do things and so on. So these people are always miserable because they never are satisfied. They never get what they want. And then the next level of the 3 lower realms is the animal realm. And the animal realm, this is where all the wild animals are. These where all the domesticated animals are. This is where all the insects are. This is where all the subterranean animals are. These where all the oceanic animals are. And all these animals who are in this life, that they really can't understand what it is. They don't have the intelligence to be able to understand who they are, what they are, where they're going, where they've been, and so on like that. They don't have a high intelligence of consciousness like human beings do. So, and we can argue this, we can talk about this, but with, like with our domesticated pets and so on, we tend to imprint our human emotions and values on them and think that they are very much like humans. And in many ways, they really are. And we see, many of these documentaries, these wildlife documentaries, where they do have emotions and so on. But it's not as sophisticated as being a human being. So this animal realm is one of the realms that we're going to talk about. So these are the 6 realms. And now I'm going to change the picture. Here we go. So this is showing the 3 upper realms and the 3 lower realms. And then we go, let me see if I get it right the first time. So here's a closer view. So we're going to zero in on that in a minute. So first off is this picture of the center core, this hub of the wheel. And whether or not you can see that, I wish I could make this bigger. If I do this, will I do it? Maybe if I go, let's see what happens if I do that. Well, I think I just defeated my own purpose anyway. Sorry. That's why I wanted you to have your own pictures. So in the center here, this is like the hub of the wheel. And then outside of this is this circle. So you have to visualize this as I talk to you. And maybe I'll just leave that picture up there. Michael, can you make that picture bigger and can you put that up? So anyway, so in the hub of this wheel, in the center of this wheel, are 3 animals. And the 3 animals are the boar or the pig, the boar, and the rooster, and the snake. So the boar has the tail of the rooster in his mouth. And the rooster has the tail of the snake in his mouth. And the snake has the tail of the boar in his mouth. So what these 3 animals represent is the boar represents ignorance. Here is a pig who lives, thank you very much, good job. So the here it's showing all 3, tied together here, but in many other pictures it's as I expressed. But anyway, you can see that the boar there represents ignorance, and we know that the pig lives in filth, that he will just stay very happily in his own excrement and mud and decaying food and so on. And that's the way that the pig lives. And they're very happy to do that. And so the pig becomes representative of living in that filth, of being ignorant of his surroundings and what it is that he is living in. The rooster represents desire, represents attachment. And if you've ever been to a barnyard and you see that there's a bunch of chickens running around and so on, hens running around, and there's a rooster that is going around and who is managing all of his hens and always keeping them together and making sure that they're nearby and he can see them and so on like that. And that if there is any threat to his hens, he will immediately become very aggressive and fight against another rooster who may come in the midst to try and take some of the hens or like that. So the rooster represents that aggression, represents that, represents the desire, the attachment to be able to keep his family together, to keep that together like that. The snake represents the hatred or the anger or the aggression. And the snake can be very docile, not appear to be doing anything at all until you get so close to it that all of a sudden it becomes very aggressive. It lashes out and it bites, whatever is coming near as a threat, as its aggression, as a mode of its aggression. So it represents this hatred. It also can, it can smother, its prey, that it will wrap itself around it and it will smother it to death. It will squeeze it until it can't breathe anymore. And then it devours what it is that it's suffering like that. So that's it's a more subtle form of its aggression, of its hatred. So these three animals are in a state of flux with each other. And this represents these three core poisons that are at the center of this wheel of existence, that human beings, as the six realms of a human being are these six things: ignorance, desire, and anger. Then at this outer, this now outer ring, if you can see that just above that, there's one half is white, the other half is black. And you may be able to see that there are these characters that are rising on the white part are going up, and as they go up, they get more. It seems they get more like in uniforms. They get more wearing at the bottom. It's just an ordinary being. In the middle, it's like a military being, and at the top, it's like a godlike being. It's a very ethereal kind of a being. So this is showing the ascension of human beings trying to ascend from the bottom to try and improve themselves to get to a higher realm, a higher place in their lives. On the other side is the black, and you see there's the animal, and then it goes down to a person who looks very sickly and so on. And at the bottom, you see one that is very, very tortured and twisted and so on. And this is the movement of human beings who are falling from the zenith of being a human being into the nadir of being a human being. So what this is representing is the dualistic nature of human beings, that there's always this good and bad, there's always this happy and sad, there's always this light and dark, there's always these ever-present dualisms that are part of the human condition, that are part of our human consciousness and so on. So these are core things. And because of representing these core things, now we can begin to build an idea of how it is that this karma begins to manifest. So if we can take that picture down and go to the next one. Michael, if you can take that down and go to the one that is the three lower realms.
One moment.
Okay.
One moment.
And if anybody has any questions while I'm talking about this, don't hesitate to turn your microphone on and speak up.
Next one. What's the next one?
So the next one is going to be the three lower realms. Let me see if I put it up what it looks like.
Three.
This one here. All right, we can leave it up where I got it. That's big enough. Okay, so I presume everybody can see that. Okay, so in the middle here, this lower part, can you see my cursor moving around? Okay, so here, these are the three, or these are the hell realms. And the hell realms, there's 16 hell realms, as it's pointed out here, as it says here, and there's 8 hot hells and there's 8 cold hells. And these hells are the results of people who have done terrible things to other human beings or animals, killing them, maybe doing things where they have stabbed them, or they've set them on fire, or maybe sent them out into the winterland where they were being crushed by glaciers or something. So in the books, they go into a great deal of detail about talking about these 8 hot hells and these 8 cold hells. But bottom line is that these people are there because of the terrible things that they have done in a prior life, that they have manifested themselves to be reborn in these hells where they are being cooked alive, or they're being crushed alive, and so on, because of the terrible things that they did as a result of their karma. So, so there's great suffering there, and these beings are just constantly going through this, and it seems like eternally. Then the next realm over here, this section here, would be the hungry ghost realm, or those beings that I was saying that were very rotund, and they're very miserable and unhappy and completely unsatisfied, that no matter what they have, they're never satisfied with it. They're not able to feed themselves. They're not able to give themselves enough liquids to drink, and so on. They're not able to get enough knowledge. They're not able to do enough things, and so on. So maybe in our own lifetimes, we have seen other people in these different realms. Maybe we've seen them on television. Maybe we've read about them in books. Maybe we know people like this. People who were completely unsatisfied, who were insatiable, people that always seem to be caught up in a hell realm, people that are miserable. They don't know whether they're going to live out the day or they're going to be killed. Maybe they live in a war zone, or maybe they live in a place of famine, or maybe they live in a place of intense heat or cold. And so they don't know what is going to happen to them. So, and maybe we've been in those situations ourselves. Maybe in our lifetime, we were in a war, and we can understand what it was to be in a hell. Or we've been at a time in our lives where we were just completely insatiable, and nothing that we could do, nothing that our family could do or our friends could do would make us feel good, because we were so miserable. So these are pointing out very dramatically, these different parts of being a human being, elements of being a human being, realms of being a human being. So then over here in this section here is the animal realm. And you can see these different animals of the land. You see animals in the sea and the water here, and there's animals up in the sky here, and there's animals that we don't see, and so on. So these animals, all that they are really trying to do is to feed themselves. And so they're willing to kill other beings to be able to satisfy their hunger. And it's part of the animalistic way of life and so on. But these beings are easily enslaved. That human beings can come, more intelligent beings can come along and can enslave these animals and use these animals to do their work for them. They become beasts of burden and so on. And these animals are powerless to be able to change themselves. They can do very little to be able to protect themselves, to be able to build shelters for themselves and homes. They, depending on, some animals can do things, they can build nests and so on. but it's not anywhere like being a human being. It is being a base level animal. So you may know people who behave like that, and their base drives are to procreate. Their base drives are to eat, to find something to eat, to be able to satisfy their families and so on. And that's all that they know. And they're very easily enslaved. And you may know people like that are working, very difficult jobs, and they feel like they're totally enslaved in their ordinary everyday human life. They're like like an animal. And they come home and they might be angry with their family and take out their frustrations with their family or with friends or something. And they come and their sexuality has to, be a dominant thing in their lives, and they force themselves on their family members many times, or wives or husbands or children sometimes, or others and so on. So they're behaving very animalistically. So there are human beings like this. So these are the three lower realms. So then are the three higher realms. So we're going to start with the God realm and work down a little bit. So the God realm is at the very top. And the God realm is what everybody would like to be. These are the shining ones. These are the beings who are so ethereal and so, yes.
I have a question just for clarification in my mind. Now, are we to understand that these people are living the suffering that they're living their lives, whatever makes them miserable or anxious, as a result of what they've done in past lives?
Yes, and in this life.
And in this life.
And in this life.
In terms of extremes, I'm thinking of the horrible people in history, like, Genghis Khan and the Ataturk and Stalin and Hitler. Would we expect them to end up in the hell realm or someplace like it where?
Well, we might hold that kind of an expectation.
We don't really know, but that would be,
right.
I mean, these are people, of course, who slaughtered literally
of course
times 20 or 30 million people. And
of course.
So it wouldn't be unusual to find them having a pretty tough time in the next life. And one of them.
I would think so.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to be too definite about these things, but let me paint this whole picture and then we can talk about that.
Thank you.
So here in the hell realm, in the God realm, there are these beings who have nothing but great pleasures. And like in the hell realm, they're suffering because of the terrible things they did. In the animal, in the hungry ghost realm, they're suffering because of their miserliness, of their greediness, of the selfishness, things that they did in their prior life or earlier in their life. And now they're in this insatiable state. So this is maybe answering the question that Gary is asking. And then in the animal realm, these beings are there as being ignorant, ignorant and not having taken responsibility for their basic animalistic urges and so on like that. And now they're born into this animal form and so on. But they were behaving like animals and they wind up like animals. So now in the God realm, these are beings who have done maybe some really good things, and they have great wisdom. They have great understanding, but they have no compassion. They have no understanding, or they have no predilection to be able to pay attention to the suffering of other beings. But they're living these very long, happy lives full of their pleasures and so on, whatever they want. And they have many beings who adore them and who come and bring them all kinds of foods and flowers and things that they think that they need, but they are hindered by not realizing that others are suffering. And so this is their realm. And what happens is that they eventually fall. They fall from their God realm. And because they were ignoring the prayers and the supplications of their beings to say, oh, they're supplicating them because they're starving. Oh, they're supplicating them because because they're in a war and maybe their son or their husband or their mother died or something, and they want this God to restore them to life, or to bring them food, or to bring them rain, or to bring them sunshine, or whatever it is, to bring them children. They've been supplicated by these ordinary beings, and because they have no compassion, they're not paying attention to that. But eventually they fall. Eventually they fall. And because indirectly they have not been helping these beings, and because maybe they have been allowing them to suffer even more when they had the wisdom to recognize what their causes were for their suffering, these beings, but chose not to pay attention to them. So indirectly they were causing their suffering like that. So they fall to the lower realms right away. They go to either to the hell realms, or maybe they go to the animal realm, or maybe they go to the hungry, excuse me, the hungry ghost realm. So then is over here is the Azura realm, or the jealous God realm, the Titan realm, I call them the Titans. And these beings are in conflict with each other. These beings are great manipulators of people, and they have great skillful means. They have great understanding of how to win the respect, win the attention of other beings, and they make great promises, and they promise that they're going to make their lives better and do things for them and so on. And many people will just give them whatever these jealous gods are looking for. But they have no wisdom. They have great skillful means, but they have no wisdom, and they are using this for their own selfish aggrandizement. And they're fighting among themselves because they want what the other jealous gods have. And they say, oh my goodness, you've got, so many people, you have so many buildings, you have so much land, or whatever it is. I want that. And they fight amongst themselves to have those things. But they also, if you see this tree here, there's this tree that is growing up into the God realm. And what this characterizes, what this symbolizes is that they're trying to fight, they're trying to kill the gods so that they themselves can replace the gods and they can be the gods. So they have their bows and arrows, and they have their spears, and they have their tools of war and so on, that they are waging against the gods, but the gods are way above them, and they're not even paying attention. And the arrows and the axes and the weapons that the jealous gods are using against the gods don't even reach them. But nevertheless, they're in constant conflict with the gods, the jealous gods. So then, now over here is the human realm. And in the human realm are all of these beings who are there because of, or I should say, let me go back here to this conflict, that these beings are here because of that they have been able to do things, they have been able to accomplish things, but as I said before, they didn't have wisdom, but they did have skillful means. So this is why they are in this realm here of the jealous gods. Now in the human realm, these are beings that are here because of desire, attachment, that they have wanted to have this body, they want to have this life. They want to experience all these things that a human being experiences. And a human being can change. A human being can do things and can create things for themselves, and they can protect themselves, and they can build homes, and they can build careers, and they can bring families together. They can do many, many, many different things, and so on. And they become the characters of this wheel. This is the human segment here where all this is played out. This is like the stage in which all of this is played out. And that these 6 realms, the other 5 realms plus the human realm, is what we refer to as the psychophysical drama of being a human being. The psychophysical drama, where our psyche, our intellect, our psychological makeup, and so on, together with our physicality, then becomes, all these things that we manifest as. So we're in control of all this from the degree that we start out with this ignorance, and we are dualistic beings, and we're caught in this demon that I first talked about, that our demons are what is controlling us. So in this way, we're enslaving ourselves. The demon is enslaved this human realm, and we are the demon, we are the human realm. So we can be any one of these 6 realms, either entirely, or at some proportion of each other, and during different parts of our lives. So for instance, we could be, when we were young and in war, maybe we were called up to go to war. And during that time, we felt like we were really in hell. It was terrible, to be in war like that, especially coming from a land where we prize freedom and so on, but then we're sent halfway across the earth and have to be in this war, and it's just like being in a hell. And then we come back from that hell, and we bring a piece of that hell with us. It never leaves us. And so the same with all these other things here. So the hell beings, the hungry ghost people, could be these beings who have great ability, but they're just never satisfied with whatever it is that they have. Some people, some human beings are just very animalistic. They have intelligence and they have wherewithal to be able to make changes and so on, but they still think and behave very animalistically. And then the jealous gods, they have the great skillful means, but they're doing things and they are exhausting, or they're using all the resources of people that have been supporting them all this time, and not doing it with any wisdom, not doing it with any loving kindness. Remember, loving kindness and wisdom are two ways of explaining that same gracefulness. And then the gods, they're like the beings that are in the ivory towers, the beings that are the great leaders. Maybe they're religious leaders, or maybe they're political leaders, or maybe they're scholars who have great knowledge. They know how to change things, but it's just not, they make the decisions that it's not ready to do it for whatever. And the people aren't ready, or they don't want to do it. They're too involved with their own lives, with their own pleasures, that they're not going to have to stoop to do the work to be able to help these people that have given them, endowed them with all these attributes and so on. I'm going to shut this down for a minute. So these are the 6 human realms. It's called the wheel of existence. So it's the psychophysical drama of being a human being. Any questions, any comments about that? How does that land on you? Rebecca, what do you think?
Well, there's just no good place to be in that, is there?
I think they all look like fun places to be. But
Okay.
Lance, your opinion. When would we be in those spaces? Anytime during any day, or in between lives, or after lives, or when we wake up in the morning?
But these
or-
are manifestations of lives.
Yeah.
These are manifestations of karma. So we're a combination of these things.
Yeah.
You know, these are our emotions that are all part of us. And we could probably work ourselves into a frenzy and do something terrible, you know, like we're in a hell. And, you know, if the means are there, we might, you know, pick up a gun and shoot somebody. You know, we normally wouldn't do that. But if we're in such a rage, we might, a rational, loving person might do something like that.
Or set themselves on fire, or crush themselves between two
All kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, allow yourself the imagination to think about this and think about yourself and think about others that you know. Who are people that you know that are that fit into these things? They're not completely one thing or the other. It's a composite.
Well, I think we're so fluid that under certain circumstances, we can certainly flip between these states pretty quickly.
Correct. Yeah. And through our lifetimes, we may go through all those, you know, as we evolve. You know, I've said before, you know, when you're 40, 50 years old, you think you're on top of everything. You know, you've reached the pinnacle. You've got a good job. You got a good family. And you start thinking like, you know, well, maybe I'm a god, you know, or I've got this great power and I can do these things. I can manipulate people. I know how to convince people to give me their life savings, and I'm going to use it to build this new house I want down in Florida, you know?
But still, it's samsara. And I know some folks that are sort of new to these concepts don't see what gods are doing in samsara. It doesn't make much sense. But
well, the gods would be these beings with great wisdom who don't have compassion. You know, and maybe you know somebody like that. Maybe you've seen somebody like that on television or read about somebody like that. You know, all these beings, you know, we are these beings and so on. And in past lives, you know, so if it's that literal that we say in past lives, you know, that we were this, that, and the other thing, and then this is the way that we manifest in our next lives, because we talk about, you know, that our lives are a continuum, are moving and so on.
Lance, and I guess this is matter of interpretation. I've always associated wisdom with a more benevolent type of person, and I get the sense that the context of it here is somewhat different. That it could be benevolent, but it could be something else. But so I'm a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, look at scientists. I mean, you know, those in the ivory towers, so to speak, you know, and they have great wisdom and they build the hydrogen bomb. You know, it could be that, you know, why are they, you know, thinking about doing things, you know, amassing all this money and power and everything and knowledge and everything, and not helping cure, you know, people's diseases.
Yeah, you're right. They did it because they could, because they were fascinated by the process, like Oppenheimer and his colleagues who built the hydrogen bomb, and then Oppenheimer saw what he did. And
what about teachers? You know, what about, you know, do we get the best teachers? Because not all the teachers are motivated by, you know, being able to help these young kids. They're motivated by business, so they go into the private sector rather than being great teachers. So there's all kinds of examples, I think, of wisdom that is not being used in a compassionate way, that there is an egotistical motive that is controlling their wisdom. Can you see that? You see, can you see my point? You know? So we look at this and we have to look at this as ourselves first, you know, and recognize, you know, what it is that would put us into the hell, into that psychophysical drama of being in a hell. What is it that would drive us to being in an animalistic? What is it that would drive us to being a titan or a jealous God? And all these different things, you know. So this is all, you know, stuff for comprehension or for contemplation, for thinking about. And then as you begin to develop that, you begin to recognize these little things that maybe we've felt or done or seen others do, and then we begin to recognize more and more things with people, and we begin able to see the things that happen in family dynamics. We see the things happen in political dynamics. We see national dynamics, global dynamics. We see all these different things, and then you look and start thinking about it and say, well, you know, are we going to import this when they start talking about, you know, going to other planets and so on? When we exhaust this planet, are we not going to be taking all this psychophysical drama with us? Or do we think that we're going to purify ourselves to the point that we can go to these far off places like that, and now everything is just going to be great? It's going to be a new heaven or something. Or maybe that's how we got here. Maybe we got here from another planet, from some other place, and now we're the result of that. And what is artificial intelligence anyway? You know, is it just a mechanical way, a technological way of recreating our own process? And are we not going to build in the flaws that we suffer from every day? And what's going to be able to, you know, protect us from that? We can't even protect ourselves from each other. How are we going to protect ourselves from something as subtle as that? So what we're seeing here is this chaotic, you know, cause and effect karma that is just out of whack. You know, it's become so unnatural. We could take credit for this and say, you know what? Human beings are so wonderful. Whatever we do is perfect just because we can do it.
Well, you mentioned artificial intelligence. The scientists have been talking for some time about the artificial intelligence that we've created, developing consciousness, and in some ways making us irrelevant, really taking over.
Well, yeah, there's always, yeah, there's many films about that, many books about that, sure. But the crux of the question is, what is the essence of being a human being? And what is, you know, is the essence of being a human being that we create this for ourselves, you know, and we're bound to create this for ourselves. We're bound to it. You know, this is our exaltation as a human being, and it's our limitation as a human being. You know, it's our arrogance to think that we can control this. It's the demon who controls this. And what we have to do is to be able to rest, to be able to, you know, with our physical body, we need to rest. With our intellectual mind that is creating all these emotions that build us, to rest, and then to allow our spirituality to open up, which is beyond all this, which is beyond all the materialism, which is beyond all the intellectualism. There is something else that we are part of, and to be able to allow that to speak and allow that to be part of our everyday experience. Otherwise, we're bound on this. So, anybody need a break? Now's a good time to take a break if you want to get up for a minute or anything. Otherwise, I'll continue talking. Okay. Okay, now gotta wait for Michael and Gary to get back. Michael's there. Okay, Gary just left the room. It's like putting cats in a bag, you know. You put one in, one jumps out.
I had to climb over my dog to turn the fan on.
Oh, okay. So you see how illustratively, how dramatic, how powerful this is to be able to convey these observations, you know, these points of view to ordinary human beings who can't read or write and so on. But for sophisticated beings like us who have been to colleges and so on, but for us to be able to see this really drives the points home, doesn't it? You know, I mean, books are written about this, but you can look at this picture and with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of explanation, you can understand what it means. So going back to this, let's see here. So going back to this picture again, so around this, here are the 6 realms, but around this are what's called the 12 links of interdependent origination. These 12 links. We're not going to talk about it tonight because this is an involved talk all by itself. But this is the continuum that we go through, or the manifestation of one thing after another. One part of our life goes to the next part, goes to the next part, goes to, and it's like this movement, this circular movement, you know, and it's like the 12 links of a chain that is binding us in this samsara. So another word for this would be the ocean of suffering, or samsara. And nobody on here, nothing on here escapes the samsara, escapes the suffering that is there. We're all part of that. We're creating it for ourselves is the most important element here, to recognize that this is our design. This is what we have created for ourselves. So now people say to me, well, how do we get out of here? How do we stop this? You know, how do we get off of this merry-go-round? How do we break this chain that is binding ourselves? So I just said a minute ago, I said that, you know, this is the physical, psychophysical drama, the intellectual, physical drama that we create for ourselves, but the spirituality, where's the spirituality in this? And how does the spirituality work to liberate ourselves from this? So within each one of these segments, it may be difficult to see in this, there is a Buddha. There is a Buddha. Here's a Buddha, here's a Buddha, here's a Buddha, here's a Buddha up here, here's a Buddha here, and here's a Buddha here. And each one of these Buddhas is bringing us a bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity that will allow us a moment, if nothing else, a moment to be able to see what we've done to ourselves, what we've allowed ourselves to happen. So to get, so to get more specific about it, well, this is not a real good picture, but Michael, can you do anything with blowing this picture up? Do you have this picture?
It'll take me a second. I got to go into the file, pull it up, blow it up.
You may or may not have it.
Yeah, I have the picture.
Okay.
See what I can do.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. One moment. Zoom.
So if you printed this, these are called the 6 sages. So a sage is a great teacher, someone who, understands, all the causes and conditions and can prophesize and can teach and so on, is a great sage. So here, the Buddha or Buddha awareness is characterized in these 6 forms. Okay, so that's a little bit better than the one I had. So in the hell realm, we'll start here in the hell realm. So down here, I don't know if you can see in the lower right-hand corner as we're looking at this picture, is a blue-black body of a sage who is in the hell realm. And he is there to be able to help the beings, the hell beings, to be able to recognize what they have done, what they are doing to themselves. And the way in which this sage, this Buddha, does this, in his right hand, he's holding a fire. He's holding a flame. And in his left hand, he's holding a block of ice, or he's holding a vessel that has very cold water in it. So what he's able to do is, for a moment, he can, those beings that are in the cold hells, he's able to provide heat to them so that they can be, for a moment, they become comfortable from that cold. And for the ones that are in the hot hell, he's got the cool water to be able to refresh them so that they can not be recognizing all just their suffering, but they can see for a moment that they have created this for themselves, why they created for themselves, and they recognize the Buddha that is there to help them to be able to liberate themselves from their suffering. So this is the Buddha in the hell realm. And next to him, over on the left side, is a red-colored Buddha who is in the hungry ghost realm, in the Azura realm, and he has in his hand, he's got a flask of water, and in his other hand, in this particular picture, it doesn't show it very well, but it would show that he has some food, he has some bread or something like that, in a casket, they say, of food. So for a moment, he can offer these hungry ghost beings something to eat and something to drink, to nourish themselves, to satisfy their thirst and hunger for a moment, that they can recognize what it is that has caused their being in this hungry ghost room, that has caused their greediness, that has caused their insatiability. And then recognizing the Buddha that is giving this to them, that is offering to this, they recognize that there is this spiritual value that is able to offer this to them as their way out, to be able to stop their suffering. So then the next one is here on the middle right side, and he has a blue body, and he is holding a book. And this book is being offered to the animals in the animal realm as a means to be able to educate them from their ignorance, to be able to show them the causes of why they are where they are, and to be able to help them to be able to develop the skills that they need to be able to liberate themselves. So it's through the education, it's through the book of knowledge that Buddha is there in the animal realm to help those animals overcome their ignorance, which of course are human beings. Then in the middle left is the sage who, in his right hand, he's holding a sword. It's a flaming sword of wisdom. And in his left hand, he's holding a shield. So he is in the Titan realm. He's in the jealous God realm. And these beings are in conflict with each other. So what this sage is able to do is, for a moment, to be able to give them a shield to protect themselves from the embattlements of the other jealous gods, and the wisdom sword to be able to cut through their inability to be able to recognize the wisdom. This is the wisdom sword. So they're able to cut through all their preconceived ideas and so on for what it is to be successful and important in their lives and in other people's lives. So he's able to offer them a peacefulness and a wisdom that they wouldn't have. So for a moment, they can see that it's their spirituality that offers that to them so that they can liberate themselves. Then above him is the sage who has a white body, and he is playing a stringed instrument, a guitar-like instrument, a vina. And he is in the God realm. And what he is demonstrating, what he is showing the gods is compassion. Because with the stringed instrument, with the music, being like an art form, he's showing the gods compassion. He's showing what it takes to be able to play the instrument, what it takes to be able to compose the music. Have you ever listened to a piece of music that drives you to tears, that arises such emotion, such compassion within yourself and so on? Well, this is what this is. This is what the sage in the God realm is bringing up. So maybe it's other forms of art. Maybe it's art that, it's painting art or something like that. Something where the creative urge that shows, this suffering, this compassion that is required to be able to produce this, to be able to give the gods now a connection point to suffering beings, to the suffering within themselves, to be able to see that compassion within themselves. So then, over on the top right is Buddha Shakyamuni, who is our Buddha in the human realm. And he's got a golden body, and he has with him two things. He has a staff, and the staff has all these pieces of metal together that are all jangling and jingling and so on. And in his other hand, he's got a bowl, a mendicant's bowl, a monk's bowl that is full of Dharma nectar. And so what he is able to do, what he is doing is he is offering human beings who are in the human realm the ability to be able to recognize the Dharma teachings. And he's doing no harm. The staff that he has with that jingly jangly metal is to be able to go, and wherever he goes, he's ringing that. So subterranean beings or other animal beings or other beings who can't see him or hear him or feel him can hear the noise so that they can get out of the way. Because he recognizes that there are many beings that can't see, hear, and feel, and touch, and so on like that. And through the Dharma, that he's offering a system, a way in which human beings can change, which they can liberate themselves from the wheel of existence, from samsara. So you can take that down now, please. So this is a picture. This is a snapshot of our human condition, of our situation, of what it is to be a human being. We've created this for ourselves, and we will continue creating this for ourselves until we liberate ourselves from this wheel of existence. So how does that land on you? Tom, what do you think? You've heard this a couple times, I know.
Well, it gives you a little taste of what's coming and what's expected. What a wonderful opportunity we have now here in this human realm to liberate. What a precious life that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
And what a precious opportunity we've been given, you know.
To recognize the Buddha in our lives, right?
Exactly. Your true nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
Gary, what do you think? How does it land on you?
Well, I keep being reminded of the place where I read that every moment in life is an opportunity to practice the Dharma and to learn and to grow and to put away some of the natural instinctive reactions that's really been enculturated into us in growing up. Yeah. I grew up in a culture, which I think most people in the country, maybe in the world, did, where you really had to learn you had to fight for yourself, and you had to resist, and you had to be on guard for evil, and something trying to take your dignity from you or do something to you. And that's not really what Buddhism teaches. Not that that doesn't happen, but it's how you react to it is the important thing. That's I don't know if other people were seeing that here. I'm new at this, and this is what I'm seeing. And so it's going to be there. All this samsara is going to be there, and all the elements of it are going to be there. But how you process it and how you react to it. And, this sort of teaching is part and parcel of many different practices other than Buddhism. The turning the other cheek, the loving your neighbor, the things like that. How you deal with the many opportunities you have to respond with anger and malice and self-absorption. Yeah, I don't know if that is anywhere close to what you were trying to get at, but that's what I'm seeing here.
No, there's no wrong answer. It's I asked how does this land on you? What is this? What does it make you think about? So that's good. Rebecca, how about you?
I don't know that I have a particularly articulate response to this one. It all makes sense. I can see it. There's something automatic about Okay, so where's the door, right? You just immediately want to look for the way out of it. Maybe maybe, slowing down a little bit is valuable.
What do you think of the the concept of the Buddha? There's those sayings, there's a Buddha in each one of these segments for ourselves and so on. Is that not the door?
I have experienced myself that in places that are hard, there is sometimes another person, sometimes just something that comes up in you that says, it doesn't have to be like this. And so I find that very recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to, it's reassuring to know that that at least the imagery tells us that no matter how low we go, the Buddha is going to be there with us, or a messenger of the Buddha, or an emanation of the Buddha. And I guess that means that because it's all in us, that no matter how low we go, we drag the Buddha down with us. And he's always going to be there to try to pull us back up, to pull us back out.
Well, what is this Buddha? What is that? Is it a being, or is it is it a concept? What is this Buddha?
In this context?
Yeah.
For me, in this context, this is my Buddha nature that follows me wherever I go. And whenever I give it a chance to listen for a second, or lean myself in the right direction, I get an opportunity to be lifted up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all in here. In here is the Buddha, so he's not gonna let us drown for long.
Right.
In reality, we're always still floating on top of the ocean. We just don't know it. So it's nice to know that there's a sage there to play a little music or whack a little ignorance or whatever it takes in each of those three realms to wake us up.
So all beings have that potential, even if they don't recognize it themselves. They still have the potential, but we recognize it, and that's why we have to, have respect for other people's lives and not be willing to take people's lives and so on like that. There's a saying that says, being a Buddha is not being some spiritual omnipotent Superman, but becoming a true human being. And I think in Yiddish, or in Hebrew, they call it a mensch.
Mensch, yeah. Yeah.
And then, the American Indians, the name, that was used by many of the Indians, was the Lakota. And it just means being a human being. And in Tibet, being a Nagpa just means being a human being. And to, so it's reserved for, or it's not in terms of the Nagpa would be one who has recognized that and who is in the midst of being able to express that and live that like a mensch. So there's another quote here. Let me see. Many people, many people bring up the question of what is samsara, and what is this ocean of suffering, and how do we rise up out of this ocean of suffering? So, one of the illustrations that we use is the lotus flower. So I don't know whether you've heard this before or not, but the lotus flower comes from a seed that falls into a pond of very slow moving water, maybe stagnant water. And in the bottom of this stagnant water is this filth, all this decaying matter, and and you wouldn't want to go in there barefoot. You wouldn't want to scoop up that stuff with your hands and rub it all over you and everything. It would be disgusting. It'd be terrible. But yet this seed falls into this muck and this mire. And then when the conditions are right, when the temperature is right and the sunlight is right and the nutrients are right and everything, that seed sprouts. And through the water, this sprout continues until it gets to the surface of the water. And then it goes outside the surface of the water. And in the open atmosphere now, it blossoms as a lotus flower. And what it represents is the purity of being a human being that comes from overcoming its defilements. We all come from defilements. We all come from this muck and mire. We all come from this confusion. It's why we're here. It's why all of us, at some place or another on that wheel, we are that wheel. We are the result of all that suffering. Now, we are very fortunate because we have a precious human life. We all are born and living in great, comfortable places, and we have many, many things at our disposal because of our karma. We designed this for ourselves, and we engineered our life through our difficulties and so on to manage to make sure that we are where we are today. But we all come from that same defilement. We all come from that same spot. And we can say, oh, it's figurative and so on, but still, it's that confusion. And what we are working toward is the pure nature of what it is to be spirit. Now, we might say that this is it. This is the best that it gets. It doesn't get better than this at all. Being a human being is number one, and everything that we see in creation when we look up at the sky, that this is the best. Or we can say, well, we come from the animal realm. We come from all this. We relate to all these sufferings and so on. And we know that there is something within us that says that we are part of something else that is beyond our being able to recognize what it is. And as a matter of fact, I've had a couple of aha moments where I think I experienced that. Maybe it was when I first looked into my newborn child's eyes and they saw me. Maybe it's when I grew out on the farm, I grew my food and I was able to eat my own food that I grew. Maybe it was when I was out on a lake on a boat and just relaxing or fishing maybe, or maybe I was laying on the beach, or maybe I was taking a hike through the mountains or something like that. And maybe I had this kind of an epiphany where all of a sudden I just felt like I was part of everything and everything was part of me. Or maybe I experienced this through a meditation where there was a miraculous moment where everything just kind of opened up and everything just became clear for the first time. So when we think about Buddha nature, when we think about the Buddha, when we think about this system, and we think about the Four Noble Truths that we learned in the first week that we were together in 101, we talked about that the truth of suffering, that all beings have this suffering, that all beings cause this suffering. We cause this from our attachments, through our hatreds, through our ignorance and our jealousies and our greediness. And so we cause this. We cause ourselves to be here. We wanted to be born here again. And that we have the ability to stop it, the cessation, the renunciation. We can say, I've had enough. I'm not going to do it anymore. But then how do we do that? And we do that through the fourth noble truth was the Eightfold Path, by living a good life and using, the right view that we can be free, that we can speak truth, that we can protect ourselves, that we can do good deeds, that we can be mindful, we can have the right effort and so on, and that all this is within ourselves and so on. So it's bringing all this together within ourselves, because that's all that we have is ourself, But ourself, we've learned now, is compounded, is all temporary, it starts off defiled. So where is the Supreme Being in all this? Because I think this is a question that we all ask ourselves at some point in our lives, and where is the Supreme Being? Who created all this? Was there a Supreme Being? So the question has to be asked and has to be answered as a Buddhist, just like it would have to be answered as any other tradition, any other system. So for us, Buddhism, we don't know. I'm willing to say that it could happen. It'd be wonderful to. And is this not all an expression of that, of the Supreme Being? And we just don't recognize it as that. And it's not until we get to this point in our evolution that we begin to recognize this, that I am the Supreme Being. You are the Supreme Being. We are all the Supreme Being. All this is all the body of the Supreme Being. Is there an intelligence? Are we so arrogant to say that I've got the intelligence of the Supreme Being? Or am I willing to let that go and say, okay, we'll see. It doesn't matter. All I know is I've got this, and this is what I've got to work with, and I'm going to work with this as if it is the Supreme Being. I'm going to be an expression of that Supreme Being, whatever you want to call that Supreme Being. So we're in this samsara, we're in this dualistic nature, we're in nirvana. We have the choice whether we live in samsara nirvana or we're vacillating between the two. It's a steady, flux that we put ourselves in. And until we can liberate this true nature, our inner breath, this gift of life that we have, we can have glimpses into what this is through our practice. And the invitation is to experience that yourself, because it's experiential. Nobody can give it to you. You can't read it in a book. You've got to experience it. And that's what all this coming together does. So what we've been doing is trying to define all this stuff, all this defilement, all this stuff that's in the bottom of the pond. And now we're going to allow the seed to germinate and to allow us to grow, to be transcendent beyond what it is to be a human being. So there we are. That's it for tonight. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them, and we can talk about it.
Here we are comfortably being ourselves, immersed in fish shit.
Immersed in what?
Fish shit.
Fish.
I've been in that pond.
Haven't we all?
Is it a
No,
good?
I've literally been in that pond.
Well, yeah, maybe we all have. You know, is it a good metaphor?
It's an excellent metaphor. The bottom of that pond is nasty.
Right. And when it gets crunchy, it gets really nasty.
And my summer
It's one
camp,
thing,
they
but those crunchy things I don't like at all.
they wanted us to go in and clean out the pond. It was a lake that we swam in at summer camp when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and they wanted to clean out this area that was full of like lilies. They're really beautiful, but man, the bottom of that was gross.
Yeah.
How did you get that job?
What's that?
My idea of summer camp.
I'm not quite sure how that worked exactly.
I went to the
I
same.
have questions.
I went to the same kind of summer camp, and I ended up, before I knew it, I was like a worker. They started calling me a worker, and I was making like 40 cents an hour.
Nice.
And yeah, I cleaned the docks and the boats, and yes, dredged the slime off the bottom of stuff, and cut grass. But I mean, I think this lesson, Lance, is really starts pointing us towards the idea of our conceptual reality. I mean, how all of this, like you say, all of this stuff just surrounds us. We're just swimming in it, and it's the stuff that we name. It's the stuff that we everywhere we turn. It's something that we get to look at, and then as we grow, we get a sort of a clue as to what something would be like without all this stuff, without concept. And then you get to this space, which I call emptiness, where there is this infinite potential. And the name for that is inconceivable. So inconceivable is not being able to recognize concepts. And that's a metaphor that I use to try to understand where I'm at with regard to Buddha nature. It works for me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, these words that we have, you know, to really get down into the essence of the meaning of these words is really great. You think about inconceivable, you know, what we can't conceive of is beyond conception. Yeah, I love doing that. So we're surrounded by all the truth, all the reality. That's the thing. And it's just the means of being able to slow things down, to be able to recognize these things and then experience it.
We're so afraid to let it go. We're so afraid to let it all go.
Yeah.
Not realizing it's all just right there.
Well, not to put Rebecca on the spot but we've talked about
But he's
this,
going to.
with the other guys. We've talked about this, but it's something I ask everybody. But what do you think about this notion of reincarnation in different lives?
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I really just don't know.
It's kind of like the God answer, you know, the supreme being. I don't know.
Yeah. It's truthful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any kind of a sense, a perception of something having that you've been or part of, or and that it's moving toward, that you are now and it's moving toward something like that? Is there any continuum that you have ever imagined?
No, except. So I would say no. That's not something that's really been a thought for me. With one exception, and that is that I have this sense with my son that we've done this before in some other organization, right? That it's as if, okay, in this life you get to be mom and I'll be your kid. But like maybe we've done it before in a different way, like we were friends, or he was my dad, or something like that.
He was your
Um,
mother.
I'm sorry?
He was your mother and you were the son.
Lance, are you familiar with uh, possibly, very possibly are the writings of Brian Weiss?
No.
He writes, it's worth looking into. I listened to a lot of his meditations, but just really briefly here, he wrote a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. He was brilliant. He went to either Harvard or Yale. He was a psychiatrist in New England, but he was very much an empirical scientist, totally not even agnostic, totally atheistic. It was just facts. Just facts. Everything was empirical to him. But he was a therapist, and he had this patient who worked in the hospital where he worked, and she was reasonably bright, average intelligence, administrative type, but she was having difficulties. So to move through this quickly, she came to him to talk to him. And so he had his therapeutic approach. He was known to be very good, highly respected worldwide in the community as a psychiatrist. And he put her under hypnosis. And she started doing past life regression. Now, this is a very, not an eccentric, exotic, just a regular person. And she had lived many lives. And the book was incredible because he kept trying to disprove and find explanations, empirical explanation for why she was saying this.
I don't mean to cut you off on purpose, but isn't that phenomenal?
I don't know. I know what.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's all part of this phenomenal world. This is the phenomenal reality. It's all possible.
But he didn't think it was. He thought that you were born, you lived, and you died, and that was the way. But this very average person, and he found ways of verifying a lot. And sometimes it went back for a couple of thousand years. Sometimes it went back for a couple of hundred years. But many lives, and that was to me, it's a sort of a reality that resonates in one small way with Buddhism, that we live many lives, and she lived both as men and women.
Well, how that actually manifests, is did you, as Gary, did you live 250 years ago, and were you an Indian or something like that in North America, or maybe where you live right now is right near where you died 250 years ago or something like that.
I don't know.
I mean, all these kinds of things, it's all phenomenal. And that's the point about phenomenal. We don't know. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. If we try and hold on to these things, if we try and master the phenomenal, then we're missing the point of letting it go. Because by letting it go, we transcend samsara. We transcend the ocean of suffering. Because all that's been here is suffering.
He wasn't letting go. It's been several years since I read the book, but she wasn't letting go, and he was trying to discover another reason why. And somewhere it lay in the fact of her existence through time. I remember it well enough to get into detail. We don't have time for that anyway. But there were many lives that she lived, and Buddhism suggests that we do live many lives.
Well,
Trying
far
to work it all out.
All right. Well, anyway, so I was trying to just make the connection with Rebecca on the question of reincarnation and understand, what she was thinking about, and we talk more about these things, and everybody has to experience their own thing. What was it?
I'm having another thought come up, and I can't remember exactly what. So I listened to audiobooks, and I was listening to something the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but it was talking about sort of the basic idea that our body chemistry, right? Some piece of me was a dinosaur at one point, and some piece of me was, like you said, 250 years ago, in India and, somewhere in North America. And the idea that we're all just fundamentally these atoms that come together in a particular structure that's built by our DNA, and then we go become other things. It's like what is eternal is the pattern, not any one of us. I don't know. That's what came to mind.
Well, no, that's interesting. That's good. That's interesting. And we'll talk about that idea, when weeks to come. Because
So,
eternalism is a mode of thought. Nihilism is a mode of thought. And materialism is a mode of thought, and individualism is a mode of thought. We call that the four extremes.
I have a logistical question.
Sure.
So, do you go just 6 straight weeks, one after the other? I know that there's a holiday for the schools next week. Some other organizations I'm involved with decide not to do stuff because of the school holiday. We're still on for next Monday, right?
It's okay with me. I'm not aware of any. What holiday is it?
The Fairfax County Public Schools will shut down for teacher work days. It's the end of the
So
quarter and
they-
election day because they use the schools. And
I see. Well, can we continue next week? I mean,
yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to confirm.
yeah, no. Yeah.
Okay.
So we go for 8 weeks.
8. Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought 6. Okay, excellent.
So yeah, we'll continue going, and next week I think we're going to do a little bit of a meditation practice. So part of 101 is learning the academics, but also part of 101 is learning some of the meditation techniques and so on, because all this has to be experienced at the meditation level, and we need a way to be able to get there. So we teach that as well. So we'll talk about that next week. Okay, so unless there's something else, we're good for tonight. Thank you all much. Michael, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No. Next Monday, I'm not sure if I'll be late or on time, but talking about elections, I will be setting up the poll
Oh,
on Monday night.
but next week is voting. Is that right?
Yeah, that's why.
On Tuesday. Tuesday's the voting, but Monday night. This is Monday night. So
Yeah, Monday
I
night.
see. So you may have. I understand.
Set up the polling location.
I got you.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
just letting you know.
okay. We'll record it. All right, then let's go to our prayer book and do our dedication prayers. So we go to page 20 and 21 tonight, please. Rebecca, do you like these prayers?
I do. They're interesting. I have kind of strange feelings about participating in them.
Okay.
Some of them I feel more comfortable reading along on than others.
Okay. All right. Good. All right, well, we'll start on page 20 and go through to page 22. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Sri Kumpa, Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the three times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana and the innate word of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, and obstructors who harm, misleading Mars and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. In my body, speech, and mind may become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you both all very much. Thank you.